is a fantastic university. We're located in the southwest, in Devon. Very beautiful location, very picturesque. Not actually as far away as you think from places like London and Birmingham. There are direct trains available as well, so it is a very accessible university. We're a very green university. The campus is beautiful. As I look out, I can see an abundance of trees and green spaces just from the building I'm sat in at the moment. We offer loads of different courses, from medicine and health sciences through to general science courses. Our engineering courses are really strong. Humanities, we've got a long tradition of as well. So do ask any questions today about Exeter that you'd like to. Do come and visit us on an open day as well. We've got those coming up at the end of May, start of June. Thousands and thousands of students have come through Exeter over many, many years and had a really, really great positive experience. So maybe you could be one of those as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Daniel. So moving forward now, where we'll be joined by the University of Glasgow, and we are joined by Fiona. So over to you, Fiona.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming along today. So very quickly, just a quick introduction to Glasgow. So we're one of the two Russell Group universities in Scotland. We're based in the city of Glasgow. We're in the west end of the city. Glasgow is a brilliant place to be a student. Lots of things going on. It's been voted the world's friendliest city by Time Out recently, and it's the UK's 5th largest city. So a great place, always something going on. In terms of the university, we're one of the 4 ancient universities in the UK. So we were founded in 1451. So we've been doing higher education for a very long time. We're a big university. We have over 40,000 students, and we've got students from over 140 different countries across the world. We've also got a lot of different courses available. So we've got over 700 different degrees that are available at the university. So lots of professional degrees. We do medicine, dentistry, veterinary medicine. We do law and engineering, but we've also got a big range of what we refer to as flexible degrees, where you can study 2 or 3 different subjects in your first year. So please check out all of the different subjects that are available at the university. Finally, you can see from the slide that we're a great university. We're very happy to be a member of the Russell Group, very proud of that. We're in the UK top 20 and we're a world top 100 university, and really super proud to be Scottish University of the Year this year. So thank you, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you very much for that, Fiona. So moving on now, where we'll be joined by Newcastle University, and we'll be speaking with David. So over to you, David.
Thank you. Yes, so I'm David. I'm from Newcastle University. So why might you want to consider Newcastle University? So we are a global top 110 world university. We're a founding member of the Russell Group, so one of the original 6, and we're 15th in the UK for global research power. So that means all of our lecturers will be doing current research and will be taught by those world-leading researchers. We're a top 5 student city within the UK. We're in the world global top 30 for sustainability and social impact. We have over 185 undergraduate degrees, 14 of which are in the world top 100 and 2 of which are in the world top 50. 93% of our graduates go into further study or full-time employment within 6 months. And we are a top 10 university for sport in British University and College Sport, or BUCS. So if anybody's interested in playing sport at university, Newcastle might be a great option for you. We have lots more in terms of society, sports, the city, and the wider northeast area as well. So we are based in the northeast of England, but it only takes about 2 hours 45 minutes to get from London, Manchester, etc. on the train. And we've got hour flights from places like Bristol, Exeter, Southampton, and Northern Ireland as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for that, David. Sorry, a few technical difficulties there. Moving across now, where we'll be joined by Queen Mary University of London, where we are joined by Alice. So over to you, Alice.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this webinar. So as it's in the name, Queen Mary is based in London. So we're based in East London. So we're actually the only London Russell group that's campus based. So that means everything's in one place, but then it's only a 10-minute tube or underground to get to central London. As you can see, we've got some statistics here. So we're 17th in the UK. We're one of the most diverse Russell Group universities. So we have over 170 nationalities represented in the student body and staff. So one of the great things about East London is that it is super diverse, and there's lots of different people. It's a melting pot, and that's one of the great things about studying in London and in East London. In terms of the degrees that we offer, so we have things like medicine and dentistry, as well as engineering courses, law courses, and lots of humanities subjects as well. And yeah, that's a general overview. If you want to come along to our open day, we've got on the 15th and 16th of June, both online and in person. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Alice. So moving across now to the University of York, where we'll be joined by Vicky. So over to you, Vicky.
Thank you, Oliver. Hi, everyone. So my name is Vicky. I'm from the University of York. So if you don't know too much about the University of York, we are a medium-sized university based in the north of England. So we are a very green parkland campus, so as you can see on the image on the screen. We do have lots of really nice natural green space, lots of wildlife on offer as well. We have about 20,000 students, so we are termed as a medium-sized university here in the UK. Like many of the universities here today, we are also very diverse, so you'll be joining a student body with students and staff from across the globe. We are a UK top 20 university, so we are highly ranked in the UK, and some of our subject areas are very highly ranked in the UK and in the world as well. We also have Teaching Excellence Framework Gold, and we've been ranked 10th in the Research Excellence Framework as well. So that means that lots of our academics are doing research, and that does influence the way that you're taught as well. We are a collegiate university, so that is when it comes to your accommodation. You will typically pick a room within one of our 10 undergraduate colleges, and that is like a smaller community that you would be a part of. They have lots of social events, lots of pastoral support, and it just has that really nice kind of familial feeling as well for students. We do have good employment statistics. We have a really good careers team who are there to support you throughout your university life, but also after you graduate as well. We have lots of courses to choose from across our three main faculties. So we have arts and humanities, sciences and social sciences. We do offer lots of our courses as integrated masters. You can do lots with a year in industry or study abroad, and we also offer a few equal degrees as well, predominantly across more of our kind of humanities-based portfolio. I'll leave it at that today, but if you do have any questions, please do pop them in the chat and I'll speak to you later on today.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Vicky, and thank you to our 5 panelists who will be joining us for the Q&A section just after. However, we are also joined by 3 more institutions who are going to be helping answer the questions in the Q&A. So first of all, to introduce the University of Bristol, we are joined by Glenn. So over to you, Glenn.
Hello, everyone. And yes, hi from the University of Bristol. Gosh, so many numbers, so many great reasons to choose these incredible universities. I think I'll just say that when it comes to Bristol, what really sets us apart, that it's just a great place to live, to work, to study. Vibrant culture, strong sense of community, and just loads of chances to try new things. But I tell you what, don't take my word for it. Bookings for our open days in June went live this week. We'd love to see you there. Come and check it out. I'll put the link in the chat now. And good luck choosing the right university and course for you. Don't be overwhelmed. There's just loads of great options.
Thank you very much for that, Glenn. And moving across now to the University of Southampton, we'll be joined by Sarah. So over to you, Sarah.
Hello, welcome. I'm really happy you could all come along and hear from the great universities here today. My name is Sarah and I work in a student recruitment role, and I've been at the University of Southampton for about 8.5 years now. A little bit about us. We are home to over 25,000 students across undergraduate, postgraduate from across the UK, EU and internationally. We are one of the top 20 in the majority of UK league tables and in the top 100 of the QS World Rankings. We have 5 faculties offering over 400 different courses across a really wide variety of subject areas. And we are a multi-campus university. So there are several places where subjects might be based, most of which are a couple of miles just outside the city centre, connected by a really brilliant bus service called Unilink. We are about an hour and 20 minutes by direct train from London. And there's plenty to do with student life and activities outside of your course, with student societies, sports clubs, social events, all offered by our Students' Union. We have a dedicated student support team to help you with your academic concerns, financial and wellbeing, and mental health, and lots more. So please do visit our website for more information. And if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat.
Thank you very much for that, Sarah. And last but not least, we are joined by the University of Nottingham, pardon me, where I'll be speaking to James. So over to you, James.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the University of Nottingham. So we're situated right in the heart of the country, really, so really accessible. Nottingham's a great student, vibrant city, and we've got a really nice blend of strong academic rigor, but also creating the right sort of environment for you to feel comfortable and to flourish as well. So alongside all the great academic stuff, I think really importantly, we have a really nice campus, which has won loads of Green Flag Awards, all since 2003, actually. So you're going to feel comfortable. It's nice and green, very good for the environment, and it's just a really nice place to be. We also have 2 campuses abroad as well, in Malaysia and China. So our students get the opportunity to transfer over to those campuses to study their course for a year or a semester or a few weeks, things like that, which is really cool. And then proudly, we are Sports University of the Year 2024 as well. We won it in 2021, 2019. So we have a really big commitment to sport, whether that's competitively in the books. We finished 2nd last year, but equally just for socializing, taking part, trying something new. So I think overall, the University of Nottingham really does try and look at that environment and make sure that you're comfortable as well, and your dedication towards your health and well-being. And finally, just all of those sort of things put together means that we're really desirable. Our graduates are really desirable for being employed. We're 2nd at the moment for most targeted universities for employers. So we have really strong graduate outcomes. So it'd be awesome to see you at Open Days 29th and 30th of June are ours, but please check out all the courses and things like that on our website. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, James. And thank you very much to the rest of our panelists and helpers for today. So it's great to get a quick introduction from all of the universities that are joining us. Like I mentioned before, for those who have just jumped on the session, if you do have any specific questions to any one of these universities, please do make sure to mention which one it is within the Q&A function at the bottom. So now we have got a quick introduction. It's time to start the session and the Q&A. So this series and this episode of the webinar is all about researching university options. So whether that's actually looking into which university you want to go to, how long I should do, hopefully we can do everything we can to answer all of those questions for you. We have got 2 rounds of questions to 5 of the panelists. So we're hoping that should cover all bases. However, this session is all about you and for you to feel more at ease with the process that is upcoming. So anything that you do have, we've got a group of professionals on this call who are here to help you. So do fire away in that Q&A function. So to start off, I'll be going back to Daniel at the University of Exeter. And Daniel, the first question that I have for you is, are there any good websites for researching career prospects?
Yes, there are. The first one that comes to mind is a website called Prospects, helpfully named, so it's easy to remember. So prospects.ac.uk. And on Prospects, you can look up a variety of things. You can do a sort of quiz to sort of match what career you might like. You might have done those kind of quizzes at school and stuff like that. I'm sure there's plenty out there. There's one on the Prospects website. But also you can look at different job advice. You could look at where various degrees could lead you. You can there's various webinars on there that you can look into. So there's loads of different flexible options on there in terms of the different careers that you can go into. The next one that I'd recommend is actually a government website. So it's the National Careers Service. I'll type these into the chat when I finish speaking, so you don't need to remember them all. The National Careers Service website. The government are quite good at putting on loads of different options to help you out to think about what various careers you could go into. And again, there's lots of different questions on there that you can look into. There's stuff on degrees as well, degree apprenticeships you can look into on that website as well. And the next place to look into that I'll mention later on as well is the UCAS website. So UCAS has got information about not only the courses that you can do at university, but also the careers they can lead into. There's advice on there. There's advice on apprenticeships if you want to go down a particular vocational route. If you want to go into a particular career path, there's lots of advice on there. So they're the three main ones I look into, but there's loads and loads of other ones that you could just Google. If there's a particular area or sector you could look into, you could Google those as well. That's the main things. If anyone's got any questions on those, do pop them in the chat. But I'll pop those three websites into the chat as well that you can look into. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that answer, David. So moving across now, we'll be joined by the University of Glasgow again with Fiona. So Fiona, the first question I have for you is, how do integrated master's degrees work? And is it harder to get accepted for one of these than a regular bachelor's degree?
Okay, so integrated master's degrees are a really great opportunity if you are wanting to become a professional scientist or engineer, or you're thinking about going on to do a PhD and being a researcher after you finish your undergraduate degree. So the thing about the integrated masters is it's a dual qualification. So you start off with an undergraduate degree. They typically last 4 years in England, and in Scotland sometimes 5 years. So for your first 3 years of your degree, you would be doing your undergraduate, and your final year would be your postgraduate master's qualification. So a really great option. In terms of getting into them, yeah, so the entry requirements sometimes are higher, or they usually are higher if you apply through UCAS. But a lot of universities, you would need to check out each one individually. A lot of universities will allow you to transfer. So if you've applied for a Bachelor of Science degree, a BSc degree, or you've applied for a Bachelor of Engineering degree, and you do really well in your first year and second year of those degrees, you do have the opportunity quite often to transfer across to the MSci or the MEng degree, and sometimes they might be called an MChem or an MPhys or an MBio, but you do get that opportunity usually to transfer across from the undergraduate bachelor's across to the MSci MEng degree. So that's kind of how it works. On converse, if you start off on the MChem, MSci, MEng route and you don't do very well in your first year of study, you might then have to go back to the BSc, the bachelor's, or the Bachelor of Engineering option. They're great degrees. They're a really good pathway to a job in industry. What's quite often different about them is that final year gives you the opportunity to do a research project. So if you're doing an integrated master's in a Russell Group university, you'll be working with world-class researchers. It's a really great opportunity. They also give you the opportunity quite often to do a year in industry. You might be doing your research project in industry. You could be doing your research project at a different university somewhere across the globe. So sometimes that opportunity to go abroad with the integrated masters is there as well. So really great opportunity. Check out all of the web pages, check out on UCAS about entry requirements. And if you do want to do that professional engineering, that professional kind of science, or you're interested in the research side of things, definitely something to look into.
Thank you very much for that, Fiona. So moving across now to Newcastle University, where we'll be joined again by David. So David, the first question that I have for you is, based on your predicted grades, how should you choose your 5 universities? So for example, 1 below, 2 level, 2 above, what do you think?
So this would only be my opinion on this, and based off my sort of 10 years in the recruitment sector. What I'll say is you need to be realistic. You don't want to go too high, but you also don't want to undersell yourself as well or undermatch, because you've been predicted those grades for a reason. So what I'd always say is look around those grades. So you might look at one that's one below, look at one that's one above, and three maybe that are for what your predicted grades are. But it's the predicted grades are not the only thing that you should be looking at when you're choosing the university. You need to look at those whole other approaches and research all of the information about the particular universities, about particular courses, what are the differences, etc. I won't go into too much information because I think the next question will touch on that in a bit more detail about other things you should be looking at. But in terms of your predicted grades, it is only part of the reason. Obviously, like I said, you need to be realistic. If you're predicted 3 Bs, for example, if you're looking at a university that's asking for an A and 2 Bs, that might be achievable. You know, if you need to put more effort in and do the extra revision, maybe put your head down, sort of figure out what distractions might be around and how to minimize those. But if you are predicted 3 Bs and you are looking at something that's 3 As, are you realistically going to be able to achieve that? If you think yes, then by all means. But remember, the universities will be looking at your grades to make their offers as well. Okay, obviously they'll be looking at other things as well, but that is something that is key about those. Okay, so just bearing in mind that universities look at them, but to look at all of the other things in terms of you shouldn't just pick a university based off your predicted grades, but you do need to take them into consideration when you're looking at those choices.
Thank you very much for that, David. So moving across now to Queen Mary, where we'll be joined by Alice. And Alice, this is one that I feel a lot of people within student recruitment hear quite a lot. And it is, when and how should I actually start researching universities?
Yes, it's a great question. I think obviously anyone who's on this webinar today, that's you starting your research journey. So that's great. I think honestly, the earlier the better. It gives you more time. You're not going to make any, hopefully not making any rushed decisions before your UCAS deadlines. I think figuring out personally, I would recommend figuring out what subject it is you want to study, or at least the subject area, and then whittling it down to maybe what degree, and then having a look at the universities and what those universities offer in the subject area you're interested in, and then maybe looking at location and things like that. But it's also important to remember that everyone is going to have different priorities. So for you, maybe the location is most important, but for somebody else, your friend at school or college, it might be something else that's really important to them. So I would actually recommend maybe making a list of all your considerations and ranking what's most important to you, so that when you're looking at the courses and universities, you're able to go back to your list and see if it does meet your priorities. And then there's so many different ways to research. I think starting in these kinds of webinars, looking at university websites. UCAS has a lot of information. There's quite a few questions in the Q&A that's asking about specific courses and do university do those courses. If you go on the UCAS website, you can even filter to locations and things like that, and it will come up with all the courses available at different universities. Attending open days if you're able to, that's a really great way of learning more about the course and the universities you're interested in. Lots of universities will have online versions as well if you're not able to travel too much to get to all the open days. So that I'd really recommend doing that as well. And then it might be, if you want to know a little bit more about student life and what it's like to study at those universities, using things where you can talk to current students. So lots of universities will have a little chat platform, either UniBuddy or the Ambassador platform. And there'll usually be a little pop-up where you can talk to current students, and using them as part of your research as well, because they're currently studying at the universities and can give you lots of information. So there's so many ways to research, but basically starting from now is great.
Thank you very much for that, Alice. That's some really good advice. So on to the final round of primary questions. We'll be joined by Vicky at the University of York. So Vicky, your first question, I know Alice did touch on it briefly, but would you recommend attending Open Days? And is there a list of Russell Group University Open Days?
Perfect. Thank you for the question, Oliver. So this is a really, really good question. I can't stress the importance enough of attending Open Days. They are really, really crucial in kind of your decision-making process about maybe where you would like to go to university or maybe where you would rule out. We definitely would recommend attending a few Open Days, and how I would kind of think about this is try and register for Open Days at a few different types of universities. So maybe have a look at a campus-based university, maybe have a look at a city-based university, just so you can compare what student life might be like across them all. You can then use that as a really good comparison, so it can really help then to narrow down your university choices when it comes to then making your selection on UCAS. So Open Days ultimately are a really, really fantastic opportunity to get a real feel for what life would be like as a student at that university. It's a chance to find out a lot more about your course of interest. You can speak to academics. You can also engage with some of our support services. So that could be accommodation, it could be disability support, it could be mental health support. You can speak to current staff. You can also speak to student ambassadors, and you can look around the different accommodation options that universities might have as well. So it does give you that real overall picture of what a university life would be like if you were to study at that institution. What I recommend if you are attending Open Days is, if you do have the opportunity, try and spend a bit of time in the city or in the local area, just so you can get a feel for if you can see yourself living there. Ultimately, when you go to university, you will be spending your time at that place for approximately 3 years, if not longer. So it is really important that you are making that decision based on the important things that matter to you. Universities do tend to hold Open Days at similar times, unfortunately, so it can be a bit difficult sometimes to pick which ones you might want to go to. So try and plan ahead, look at those Open Days in advance and register for the ones that you're really, really keen and interested on. Open Day dates can be found on individual university websites. UCAS also do publish Open Day dates as well. Sometimes they can be found in some of our literature that you might receive at some big fairs that we attend and things like that as well. Obviously, we do recognise that some students might not be able to travel to Open Days, so lots of universities do host online alternatives. So that could be an online Open Day, it could be a virtual tour, it could be smaller campus tours, or it could be kind of those one-on-one chats with students through UniBuddy and things like that. So if you are unable to visit in person, there should be other ways that you can kind of get a feel for that university as well. So please don't worry about that. Many universities also do offer you kind of secondary options to look around the university. So this may come a bit later down the line. So this is typically once you've applied to university, you might be holding an offer. Sometimes students then get invited to what we call a post-offer visit day, which is kind of a smaller scale Open Day that's more focused around your academic studies. There are some really good tips for Open Days as well, so you can find these on UCAS, you can find them on individual university websites, but just try and prepare yourself for visiting an Open Day. Have a look at the programme, map out where you want to go, who you want to speak to, what things you want to see, prepare some questions ahead of your visit as well if you can. It is going to be quite a full-on day, you will be walking around quite a lot, so try and wear comfy shoes and wear the appropriate kind of outfits and things like that. And then also make a plan of how you're going to get to the university in the Open Day as well. So if that's going to be by public transport, if you're driving, if you're going with friends or family or whatever that may be. And do take some time as well to reflect after the Open Day and kind of maybe make some notes about what you enjoyed about the specific visit that you went on. If you do have any more questions about Open Day, please do post them in the chat in the Q&A. I know a few of us have also posted links to our Open Days in the chat, so you should be able to see them there too. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that answer, Vicky, and thank you to all of our panelists for those first round of questions. I think there was some really good advice in there. So jumping back to the top again, we're ready for the second round. Again, guys, please do keep the questions coming through in the Q&A. I've seen some really good ones in there, and all of the team are working really hard to get them answered for you. And hopefully within these next round of questions, we might even answer a few of those queries for you. So going back to Daniel now at the University of Exeter. So Daniel, my second question for you is, what is the best way to find out about Russell Group universities if you're unable to attend an open day?
Yeah, really great question. And I guess the assumption behind the question is that the best way to find out about a university is an open day, which is true. So again, as many people have emphasised, do get along to an open day of a university if you can. Obviously, it does take up time, does take up money, and getting to these places as well. So it's not always possible. But if you can't get to an open day, what's the best way? Well, university websites is probably the first place to start. These are the places where you can find out about the courses on offer. You can find out generally about the university. Usually universities have pictures, videos of the university, so you can get a little bit of a feel for it. Often they'll have videos of student ambassadors, lots of advice and recommendations on there as well. So do scour the websites. Websites are the best place for finding out about the course details as well, because universities will put on those websites what different modules you could study, how you study, how you learn, whether you can do it combined with other subjects as well. They might have the sort of career prospects listed on the course pages as well. So I'd really recommend getting used to university website course pages. Perhaps there's a bit of a step back from that, though. The UCAS website that I mentioned earlier is really helpful for finding out about universities as well. They won't have as much detail as the university websites, but there'll be lots of information on there on the courses, and again, things that you can study, ways that you can study. But joining in with webinars like this is really helpful as well. Join in with as many as you can that you see listed, because these are the ways that you can find out about universities. You can learn from people who work for the universities or student ambassadors as well. The final thing says that many universities might have on online different conferences as well. We run them at Exeter, where you can find out more about Exeter. So that's an easy way that you can join in from the comfort of your own home and find out more about universities. But just to reiterate, the best way, if you can't get to an open day, because open days are the best way, but if you can't get to an open day, is to scour university websites.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for that advice. So moving across again now to Fiona at the University of Glasgow. So Fiona, my second question for you is, what does equal considerations mean?
Okay, so if you're applying to university in the UK, you have to apply through UCAS. You can't apply other ways. So, and there is a deadline, or there are two deadlines that UCAS have. So they're sometimes referred to as the UCAS deadline, but more properly, they are the equal consideration deadlines. So if you're applying to Oxford or Cambridge, or you're applying to medicine, dentistry, veterinary medicine, your equal consideration deadline will be the 15th of October 2024 if you want to start study in September 2025. And if you're applying to any other university, any other programme at any other university, your equal consideration deadline in 2025 will be January the 29th. What this means is that even though you can apply through UCAS, you can submit an application from early September, as long as you get your application in by the equal consideration deadline, your application will be treated exactly the same as everybody else's. So if you apply on the 15th of September, you've got just as much chance of getting an offer as somebody who applies on the 29th of January. There is no benefit in terms of whether you're going to receive an offer of applying early. So what you need to think about then is, what other benefits might there be to get an early application in? Do you get your application out of the way so you can concentrate on your studies, etc.? Does your school or college have a deadline? Really important to kind of check with your staff, your careers advisors, your head of sixth what they want you to do in terms of the UCAS application, because they're going to be the people that write references for you. So you need to meet the school's deadlines as well. But in terms of equal consideration, you mustn't worry. Don't think that it's first come, first served, and that if you don't get in a really early application, you've got less chance of getting an offer of a place at a university. So that's basically what equal consideration means. Meet the deadline, make sure you get your application in on time, but don't worry if you're not getting in really early. Sometimes universities might be able to make earlier offers to people who get an early application in, but quite often universities will wait until they have all of the applications in after deadline before they make offers. So it's not even usually that if you get an early application in that you might get an early offer. I hope that makes sense, but if it doesn't, please ask questions in the chat and we'll all be able to help you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Fiona. That makes perfect sense. So moving across now to David at Newcastle University. David, this is a little bit of a longer question and could actually be broken down into a few different questions. So firstly, who qualifies for a contextual offer and how will my universities know about these circumstances? On top of that as well, do I need to include this information in my personal statement?
Yeah, so I will break that up. So for those of you who aren't sure what a contextual offer is, so a contextual offer is when a university might make you an offer with lower entry requirements based on particular different circumstances. These can range from being in areas of deprivation, personal circumstances, background, first in family to go to higher education. It can be things like postcode, the school you attend. Each university will have different ones and have different criteria. Quite common currently are things like free school meals, and if you have experience of care, such as local authority care, foster care, etc. Some may even give contextual offers for high performance in sports. So that is sort of what we mean by a contextual offer. So would be given a reduced offer based on circumstances sort of beyond their control generally. And for areas that are underrepresented in universities. So in terms of how would universities know about these circumstances, there's a couple of different ways where that can be done. So that can be done through, yes, indeed, your UCAS form. So for example, there is a range of tick boxes on the UCAS application form now, which can indicate things like care experience, child of military family, and things like that. Your postcode, obviously your address will be included on your UCAS application. Things like free school meals, etc., that's on there as well. Some of it might be that you need to contact the university directly. It might be very specific. So for example, at Newcastle, we have our partners scheme, which is up to 3 grades lower across all of our courses. And we ask for a separate application form for that, for people to go through. And we have 15 different eligibility criteria on that. But that is just one out of a wide range of different contextual offer programs. And as I said, and things like high-performing athletes, you might have to include that information in your personal statement. So there might be things that you want to put in there, and that might be, it depends on looking at the universities that you're applying to, what their contextual offers are and how they pick that up. So it's key to do some research beforehand, before you've decided on your exact 5 choices and when you're doing your personal statement. So does the requirements of that contextual offer require you to provide that information upfront in your personal statement? Does it require an application form? Do you have to contact the university and provide some form of evidence of that? So these are all things that you need to be aware of when you're looking at contextual offers.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that, David. So moving across again now to Queen Mary, where we'll be joined by Alice. So Alice, your second question is, when would you recommend doing a foundation year?
Okay, so you may have noticed when you've been looking at degrees and universities that there are some foundation years. So firstly, like, I guess, what is a foundation year? So there are different types of foundation years. You've got foundation years that are maybe more for international students. So generally, foundation years are for students who maybe don't quite have the right qualifications to go on to the first year of the 3-year degree. So that might be that maybe it's that the international qualification doesn't quite match up what the university is looking for, or it might be that it's for UK students who maybe didn't quite study the right subjects, and it's a way to get your knowledge up to everybody else in first year. So generally the entry requirements for the sort of UK foundation years are slightly lower, and maybe don't have the exact same subject requirements as the main degree. So an example might be the BEng. We've been talking about Bachelors of Engineering. Maybe you need specific grades and specific subjects, but you haven't studied that at A-level, or maybe the university doesn't accept BTECs, therefore you might apply for the foundation year in engineering, so that if you haven't quite met the requirements, to then be able to move on to first year. It's a bit of a difficult question to answer because not every university does a foundation year, and some of them only accept they're only international foundation years. And then some universities also have foundation years for students who you have to meet certain criteria, such as David was answering around contextualized admissions. So for example, there are some medicine foundation years, I believe, where you do need to meet certain criteria, not just grades. You do need to live in certain areas, or your postcode needs to meet criteria. So I do actually recommend doing more research on foundation years if it's something you think you might want to apply to, if maybe you don't quite meet the main degree entry requirements. But usually you do that before you go into the main first year, and usually you go straight into the first year of the main undergraduate degree. So I hope that answers that question. Yeah,
it does. Thank you very much for that, Alice. I can appreciate that it's a bit of a tougher question because it does vary on university to university. So as Alice did mention, if it's something where you are wanting more information, or it's possibly something that you are interested in, please do make sure with the institution that you're looking for, or as Alice recommended, please just do a little bit more research on that matter. So thank you very much again for that answer. And moving on to our final second round questions, where we're joined by Vicky at the University of York. So Vicky, your second question is, when should I apply if I want to take a gap year?
Yeah, great question. So there are a few options that you can do if you are thinking about taking a gap year before you start university, and when it's kind of best to apply. So I'll go through a number of different scenarios, and then I'll explain a bit more at the end as well. So the first kind of scenario is that you can apply for deferred entry in the cycle that you're applying for. So if you're thinking of joining university in September 2025, but you're thinking of having a gap year and starting in 2026, you can still apply during the 2025 cycle, but in the drop down, when you select a year, you can simply select for 2026 entry. That means that you're applying at the same time as your friends. You're also getting the support from your school and college in terms of helping you with your application, doing your reference and that type of thing. But you are simply just indicating to the university that you want to be considered for a later entry date. If you are kind of doing it this way, what we would recommend to students is that when you apply, in your personal statement, you might want to just write a quick sentence about what you intend to do in your gap year, things you hope to learn, things you hope to achieve, just because we can then take that into account when we're looking at your application. In this scenario, your application goes through the exact same process as every other student that's applying for that cycle, but when you receive your decision, it will hopefully refer to the 2026 entry or intake. Deferring this way, it does really help because you do get that support from your school and college. So just bear that in mind when you're thinking about it. The other option for deferring is that you can apply for the current intake, so you can apply for 2025 entry. If you then decide for whatever reason you want to take a gap year, you can then email your individual university choices and see if they would accept your deferral request. This may be more suitable for students who are perhaps not 100% sure about what they intend to do on their gap year, if they're still maybe figuring out their plans or waiting on confirmation of certain things, and that can give them that flexibility, that bit of fallback in case things go amiss and you've still got that kind of university option ready for 2025. Just do be sure that as soon as you've decided whether you are taking your gap year, please do try and inform universities as soon as possible, and they can get that deferral processed for you. I'm just going to caveat all of this by saying that in all of the scenarios that I've described, it is really worth speaking to the universities that you're considering, emailing the admissions teams, and just checking that they will accept deferred entry and asking them which way is their preferred option. Some universities or some more competitive courses, more competitive universities, they may not accept deferred entry. So it is really worth asking the question to universities you're considering before you go through any of those scenarios and before you make your application. You could also hold off applying and apply for the following year. But again, I wouldn't normally advise this just because when you're in school and college, you do get a lot of support from your staff in your school with your UCAS application. So we would prefer students to have that support from their school and college rather than delaying an application. I hope that helps. If you do have any questions about deferrals, please do ask questions in the chat. There is some really useful guidance on the UCAS website. Lots of universities also post their deferral policy on their admissions pages as well. But if you are considering deferring before deciding which scenario to go down, please do check with the universities that you're considering applying to.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Vicky. And thank you to the rest of our panelists for those 2 rounds of questions. We still have a little bit of time, so myself and my colleague have been filtering through all of your questions, and I've developed another round of questions for our panelists. So we're going to be putting them on the spot a little bit here. So moving back to the top, where we will be dealing with Daniel at the University of Exeter. And Daniel, this is quite an interesting question, and I think there isn't a straightforward answer here. So what do you think is more important, your course preference or the institution?
Yeah, really good question that, and I guess it depends what you mean by important and what for. I'd say to slightly reframe the question, which is probably a bit naughty. What you should think about first, I would say, is your course and determining what you want to study, what you want that course to look like first before deciding what university to go to. So if you decide first on the university you want to go to, maybe you've heard of university here and you think, I really want to go there. When it then comes to choosing what course to do, that university that you really like the sound of or the look of might not do the course that you then want to do. But if they do it, they might not do it in the right way that you want them to. Let's say you decide on doing history, and there's loads of different ways of studying history. You might be more interested in ancient history, but the university you want to go to does modern history, just as an example. So I've nailed down first what course you want to do, because then you can look at the universities that do that course, and do they do it in the right way that you want to study that course. So that's the first thing I'd say. In terms of what's more important, I guess it depends really. Obviously the course will be what you're studying, so that'll be your sort of study side of life while you're at university. Then the institution will be more about the the general student experience and life and societies and accommodation, things like that. So they're both really important. It just depends what you slightly value more, and they might come hand in hand, and there might be a university that has your perfect course and has the kind of social life and accommodation that you really want and come hand in hand. But if you don't find that perfect balance, then you do have to slightly sort of weigh them up against each other and consider what do you consider to be more important out of the two, really. So I hope that's helpful. But yeah, just to re-emphasize, deciding on what course you want to do first would be my recommendation.
Cheers for that, Daniel. I realised I did put you on the spot a little bit there, but that was a brilliant answer. Thank you again. So the next one is for Fiona at the University of Glasgow. And again, it's another tough question to answer, but it's something that we do constantly keep getting recurring through our Russell Group series. So the next question for you, Fiona, is it best to select your university according to how highly it's ranked in the league tables?
There isn't a yes or no answer to that. So each individual is different. So what I would say is the most important thing that you can do is do what you're doing today. Everybody's come along to this webinar, so that's a really great start. You're finding out information, you're looking into various things. League tables are useful. They give you lots of good information. You can see what your subject looks like in terms of how it compares from one university to the next. You can look to see how universities rank. The league tables give you lots of different information about why some universities rank higher than others for different things. So you might be looking at tariff, you might be looking at student satisfaction, you might be looking at how many staff there are to students, what the staff-student ratio is. So what I would say is go in with your eyes open and think about what's important to you. What is really, really important to you? Is it about how big your classes are going to be? Is it about whether your university is ranked in the top 10, or actually is it about how the subject's ranked? Or is it about where you want to study and what kind of institution you want to study at? Do you want to be in a big city? Do you want to be somewhere quieter, more rural? What kind of accommodation is on option? So do all of that research. So I can't give you a yes or no answer. I mean, we've obviously all come on and we've all got our stats and our figures, and we've all told you about how we're ranked highly in the UK and how we're Russell Group and how that's fantastic. And it is something that does inform how well you're going to be taught and the people you're going to be taught with, because you're going to be taught by kind of leading researchers. But there are other considerations to make as well. And I'm fluffing this a little bit because there isn't a right answer to this, but do what you're doing. Come along to webinars, get onto university web pages, speak to current students, use things like Unibody, go to open days and do all of your research before you make that application. I hope that kind of answered the question.
That made perfect sense. Thank you, Fiona. And to the both of you, I have put you massively on the spot there because I don't really think there is a yes or no answer. But the description you gave for both of them has been brilliant. Similarly, for the next question, I'll be joined by David. This is something where a lot of students always ask, especially before these webinars. But in terms of research, David, what is the difference of studying at a Russell Group university?
Yeah, so I think I touched on it briefly in my introduction, and I think others doing their intros touched on it as well. And I think the main difference of studying at a Russell Group university is that access to research and to those academics who are at the forefront of their fields and doing this world-leading research that really is changing the way that we do things and discoveries and looking at how we treat patients, and just thinking about some of the research that we do into aging and health, for example, and the funding that research brings in, which allows the facilities and the quality of the teaching to be at that sort of higher standard, really does make the Russell Group universities stand out as a group, and sort of give students that real access. I know I had a colleague who had previously been a student at Newcastle, and they said the highlight of their final year was being able to work on their academics research into cancer at the medical school on their biomedical science degree. So you do get access to that, and there is opportunities to work, to do research assistance, to get involved with the research that your academics are doing as well. It's not just them teaching you, you get the opportunity to work alongside them and to go on. And if research is something that you're interested in pursuing yourself one day, then being able to do that, get that foundation knowledge at a university with those lecturers who are doing it, and then pursue potentially further study at those institutions as well is a really great opportunity.
That's a really great answer. Thank you, David, and thank you for that insight. So moving across now to Alice at Queen Mary. So Alice, I know we've been speaking a lot about sort of open days and other research options. However, would you recommend speaking to current students, and how would you actually go about doing this?
Yeah, great question. The answer is yes. Speaking to current students, I would absolutely recommend. You know, we can tell you lots of things about our universities and what's great about it, but speaking to a current student, they're going to be able to really, you know, be able to hear exactly what it's like. And they're only a couple of years before you, so they can tell you more about student life, about specific questions about the courses, any, you know, you can ask them for advice. So basically there are platforms that universities will use which will allow you to chat to their current students. So I'll use Queen Mary as an example. We use UniBuddy, and you might see a little pop-up on when you go on the website, which says, you know, you can chat to a current student and you can filter based on the subjects that they're studying. So if you want to ask specific subject questions, or if you're an international student and you want to speak to somebody who has gone to the university you're interested in from the country that you're from, then you can also do that if you want some advice. There, other universities might use things like the Ambassador platform, but I would just have a Google and just put chat to current students and the university name, and then usually it will come up. I don't think there's a list anywhere. Maybe there is online somewhere with all the different links to speaking to current students, but the best bet is to Google chat to students and the name of the university. But I would really recommend it. I think you get some really good insight about what it's actually like to study at the university from current students. And they're really good at being able to reassure and sort of send you links, and also, you know, if you want to know a little bit more about the social life and things like that, they'll be able to tell you.
That's great. Thank you very much for that, Alice. And moving on finally to Vicky at the University of York. Because Vicky, again, speaking a lot about different ways that you might think a university could be perfect, whether that's a course, whether it's the actual size of the university. But how do you actually research if you'll fit in at a particular university?
Yeah, great question. Thank you, Oliver. So the first thing to do is really do engage with the universities that you're considering applying to. So that could be if you're visiting a UCAS fair, if they are at your school visiting, if there's another way that you can engage with them, just make sure that you speak to any staff, any current students that you can, and ask all the questions that you want to ask. We will give you our opinion. Students will obviously give you their opinion from being a current student. So if you see your university out and about, if you're visiting UCAS fairs and they're at your school, please do come and find us and ask us any questions. The other thing is, again, open days. I'm going to keep saying it, but open days are a really great way to find out whether you'd be a good fit in that university, if you think it's the right option for you. It's a really great way to see if you can see yourself living there, because you can effectively picture yourself on that campus, at that university, in the buildings, in the accommodation. So I really do recommend visiting those open days as well. It's also worth asking about the kind of clubs, the sports societies, the different things that you can get involved with during university, especially if you have a particular interest or a hobby or a passion that you want to continue with at university. Lots of universities have loads and loads of different clubs and societies that you can join outside of your academic studies, and they are a great way to kind of meet like-minded people who are interested in similar things to you. There's a range of different clubs and societies, so there's loads of different sports on offer. There's loads of different societies, so it could be based on if you're interested in reading or music or faith-based societies. There really is kind of something to suit everyone. Again, speaking to current students is a great way to see if you're the right fit for that particular university, and there's a range of ways that you can do that we kind of discussed on this call already. Unibuddy is a great one, but obviously different universities use different platforms for that student interaction. There are also kind of online forums, so there's something called the Student Room. That is where lots of kind of prospective students might post questions and people will chip in with kind of responses and answers and things like that. So it might be worth having a look at the Student Room as well. And then this is a real time to kind of think about your likes, your dislikes, a bit about your personality. For instance, do you want to be in a big city? Do you want to be surrounded by hundreds of thousands of people? Or are you a bit more introverted and you would prefer a campus-based university that's in a smaller city or slightly out of a city centre? So they're questions that you also might want to start asking yourself as well. I hope that helps, and thank you very much.
That was brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Vicky. And thank you very much to the rest of our panelists and helpers. I think we've covered all bases on everything related to researching university options. I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everybody that has joined us, and we hope that you have answered all of your questions. We have still got a little bit of time available. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this Q&A function open for another sort of 5 or 10 minutes or so till around the 1/4 mark. So just in case you do have any final questions for our panelists, they'll be here to make sure that they can answer them for you. This isn't the end of our series, however. I'm going to quickly share my screen and show that we still have one more session available, which is at 4:30 this afternoon, and that is our personal statement session. This is welcome to all, and it should be a really good and busy session. And hopefully you'll get all the information you need to build a perfect personal statement. For those, again, who have joined us on this session but haven't registered, I've got this QR code here at the bottom. And if you scan that, make sure you register. This recording of this session will be sent across to you. So any of those bits of information that you thought were really interesting, but you might have not noted down, you can then go back on the recordings and note them down as well. Just to reiterate as well that this session has been recorded. So if you, for some reason, haven't registered, this will be available on our website, studentstream.co.uk, in a few days' time, looking more at early next week. This also gives you the opportunity to look at some of our other sessions. So a few days ago, we had the likes of the intro into the Russell Group, or if you wanted to find out a little bit more about student life, where we're joined by a group of different current students and student ambassadors. And finally, if you are an international student and wanted to find out a little bit more about the process from coming abroad and studying in the UK, we also have a session on that. Apart from that, guys, I want to say a massive thank you from myself here, Oliver, at UK University Search. And I also wanted to say a massive thank you to all of the institutions who have joined us today, from the panelists to the helpers in the background who were helping answer all of your questions. If you do have anything else, guys, please do fire away in the Q&A. But what all of our universities have mentioned, if you do have any specific information, we have admissions teams, student recruitment teams. They are all here to help you. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. This is a really important shift in your life. So please do fire away. This is what everybody is here to do. So thank you very much again from ourselves, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Cheers.